Hey guys, Nick here. The year is drawing to an end. Your Christmas tree may be up. You may be singing carols by the fireplace as you sip your eggnog. You often start thinking about what you've been up to during the year, right? I do. I start obsessing over it and whether whatever you've done is good enough. This year I've made probably the biggest amount of investment into gear that I have probably over the last 2 or 3 years combined, because I really wanted to focus on my cinematography. My background is as a video producer, videographer, one-man band, whether that was shooting corporate and events and promo videos and even some commercials. They were always, or they traditionally have always been with just me, and if I'm lucky, some kind of assistant. So I wanted to run through, I think, like 5 of the most important gear purchases I've made this year, things that are helping me become a better cinematographer, and things that hopefully can help you become better cinematographers or filmmakers as well. They're in no particular order. These are just units that I've bought and love utilizing in my day-to-day gigs, whether it's for the fun creative stuff, whether it's for the paid gigs. The first thing I'm gonna rave about is the DJI Ronin SC gimbal. Now, most of my work this year has actually been with a kind of bigger camera solutions than the Ronin SC can handle. It's designed for lightweight camera payloads. I think it's got a payload of something like 2 kilograms. So generally speaking, you're looking at a mirrorless camera with a smallish lens. You're not gonna get your big Zeiss Batis on there. It is designed to be quick and portable. I love the build quality of this. It's in my opinion, much lighter than the Ronin S, which is a great gimbal. But I still do jobs with mirrorless systems, and to be honest, now that I am working with, and certainly hoping to work on bigger and bigger projects with hopefully bigger budgets, when we're using cinema systems, cinema camera systems and things like that, generally speaking, we'd hire in a bigger gimbal. So I didn't need to really go too far when looking for a new gimbal. I had the old Ronin M. It was just a pain to set that up this day and age when everything is like go, 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 right? So the Ronin SC is really easy to balance. The battery lasts all bloody day, and I've put on a couple of small rig NATO rails here so that I can add in a monitor. I can add in my follow focus if I wanted to. It is great because I do use my mirrorless Sony cameras for a fair chunk of jobs still, and probably will continue over the next year. So the Ronin, DJI Ronin SC is a great gimbal, and the cost, you really can't go past the cost because it costs nothing. It's under $1,000. I know everything is slowly coming down, but when you've got the ability to add in such dynamic camera movement for the investment of $500-600, I think personally that's a no-brainer. Okay, next up, something a little bit more definitely filmmaking related, is a wireless video assist option, the Hollyland Mars 400S. I love this solution for wireless video. I've been in the market for a system for a good 6 to 8 months probably. I again do a lot of my shoots as a one-man band or very small crew, but I've been involved in enough gigs this year that could have benefited from having a dedicated client or director's monitor. And so I've been looking at a few solutions. I'm low budget still, guys, so I can't go anywhere near even the lower end models of something like the Teradek. I wanted something that, generally speaking, 60 to 70% of the time I'd be sending back to someone to basically look at. The other 30-40% of the time would be because I'd have a first AC pulling focus wirelessly with me on jobs. There's a few important factors there. Firstly, they're really sturdy and they take Sony NPF batteries, so they'll last all day really. But you want a system to have as little delay as possible. And I needed them to have a couple of connection options. Most of the cameras I'm using are HDMI cameras, but the 400S has an SDI in or out on the receiver and transmitter. So that means you can choose whether you are going HDMI in or SDI in. and HDMI out or SDI out, or both, because just on the weekend I was DOP on a short film, and we had a SDI connection going to the first AC's monitor, and we also ran a nice long cable of HDMI out to the director's monitor, so they could just stay away from the first AC. She could concentrate on the focus. A really good solution for the price. On that price, they're not the cheapest solution you can find out there. There's even Hollyland makes a cheaper version called the Mars 300. But I'd heard some issues when it came to delay and how quickly the latency involved there. For me, whilst I couldn't afford something like their better system, like the Cosmo series, which has virtually no delay, and those other options out there, as I said, it was a good balance of price to performance. And there is some delay. I'll do a big review on the Hollyland 400S at some point, but 100%. It is really useful for those low or no budget gigs where you do have a very small crew and and you don't want to be like tied down by all these wires and tripping over everything, because I trip over enough on set as it is. I've only got so many toes left to stub. Next bit of gear I think really worth taking a look at is an Atomos Shinobi. It's a 5-inch monitor. It's 1000 nits of brightness, and it has a really good contrast ratio. So it is in effect daylight viewable. If you get a real blast of sun, it is still going to be harder to make out, so you might still need a sun hood. But I was super impressed at how bright it is, especially because I was moving from the small HD 502, 501 monitors that I sadly got a big scratch down, the 502, in my monitor at the start of the year. And so I was like, no, but then Atomos released, I can't actually remember if it was last year or this year they released the Shinobi, but it suited my needs perfectly. Again, as a one-person running and gunning video producer, this suited perfectly. Had a HDMI connection, fitted in with my cameras. It took Sony NPF batteries again, would last all day. Oh, I should mention, it's super lightweight. It's not built of metal, so you gotta be, wary of how tough you are throwing your monitor back in your case at the end of a gig. But I actually like that it's really lightweight, because you put it on a cold shoe, on a camera, or on a cage. It adds nothing to the weight. The battery is heavier than the monitor. I think that's awesome. Okay, moving on to a light that I think has become pretty indispensable for me. This is the Aperture 300D Mark II. I made a video about it pretty much when I first bought it. I've had it for about 6 months or so now, maybe not quite that long. And at the time I was kind of questioning if I needed that much power. I think I kind of jumped onto it because I love Aperture's products, and I felt like I just wanted the newest and brightest thing from them at the time. But I have to say, initially I was a little trepidatious about how much I'd use it, but I found it's really being used on, again, nearly every shoot in some capacity, because it's a very powerful light. It's a continuation of their COB LED lights, which are just fantastic. It has a Bowens mount, so I can put any kind of modifier on that goes onto a Bowens mount, which is great. And the fantastic thing is a light this powerful, you can power with 2 V-locks if you've got the right capacity. So that was really useful, because I used it in a short film I did for Halloween, and there was no power. It was all battery lit. So it was great having such power and kick out of a light like the 300D Mark II. The fact that you can throw it anywhere, it will fit. Really, it's big, but it's not big compared to a lot of the alternatives out there. And you can push it through diffusion, you can push it through, you can harden it with Fresnel mounts. And I just like the versatility that something like the 300D Mark II brings in the type of work I do. And so especially even for corporate jobs, the ability to really hone in and key your subject and start bringing down that background and just having a little bit more creativity when it came to that kind of stuff. I can see that working really well for talking heads, for documentary work and things like that leading into next year. So 300D Mark II, it's certainly not the cheapest bit of gear you will find if you're just getting into video production or filmmaking. But man, you pay for the power, right? And this light is many, many powers itself. Finally, on to the piece of gear that has, without a doubt, been the best investment for me this year. It was released technically towards the end of last year, but I didn't get it until I think late Jan. It is the Blackmagic Design Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. I made this purchase quickly because, number one, it was cheap, but I knew that Blackmagic were going to put a ton of features into a relatively inexpensive camera. And for me, because I knew I wanted to focus on cinematography, like I said at the top of the video, I knew that I wanted to start pushing and pulling apart and really understanding how cameras like they can shoot in log and raw formats, how they can really capture a nice image, how the kind of circumstances they need to get the best image onto that sensor, and help me understand exactly how to become a better cinematographer. I've used this on probably 70 to 80% of all my paid gigs this year. I've used this on every single creative project this year. Anything that's outside of the Monday to Friday kind of paid gigs, I've brought this along. The fact, I've taken it off the cage. Yes, you need some additional things to get up and running, things to make sure it doesn't die on you and the battery's crap and yada, yada, yada. Yes, there's a million things wrong with it, but there are also a million things right with it. And I probably owe a big part of my improvement in cinematography to buying this camera. If you're looking at becoming a cinematographer, if you don't have a background in filmmaking, or if you're new to it, often I've always said no, buy a really cheap camera and just learn how to get the best image out of that, and 100% you can do it. But for the price, because you can get a camera that shoots 4K at 60 frames now. I think you can do 2.8K at 72 frames and 1080 at 200 and something, 120 frames, whatever it is, in RAW, in Blackmagic RAW, a fantastic codec. There's really no reason not to just buy into it, just to give it a test, because it's so inexpensive. Everyone now, because the 6K has been released, the Pocket 6K, everyone talks about that. But honestly, now you'll be able to find people who just want to shunt their 4K and upgrade to a 6K, or people who just don't like the 4K for some stupid reason. This is the best investment money can buy for learning how to create nice images, in my opinion. 5, maybe now 6 items that have proved invaluable to me this year. I'm really looking forward to spending the time on continuing to grow as a cinematographer. So if you're interested, please consider subscribing, because I think as I can learn all the mistakes, that saves you having to make them. And of course you can come along and make them with me. That would be great too, so we can, be in solidarity with one another. What did you think about the gear that kind of made the top of my go-to list? What are your gear choices of the year? What are the things that you haven't been able to live without? I'd love to know with a comment below. And who knows, might get me some ideas to start looking at some of those New Year sales, right? Because you can never have enough debt. All right, on that note, guys, have a great end of year. Wish you all the best for the start of your 2020, and I will catch you in the next video.